Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're having a good night. Okay, I am so excited to do this stream. I wanted to talk about this so much more than the one stream I did, and I am ecstatic that they did a tell-all, even though there was some parts of it where I was just like, meh, you know what I mean? Like I was like, really? These are the people that showed up? Because, you guys, there was some really important people that did not participate in the tell-all. Doc Antle and Carol Baskin. Carol effing Baskin. She did not participate in this. She wasn't there.
Doc Antle?
She wasn't there, you guys.
And Carol Baskin.
She wasn't there. I was so sad. I was like, oh, where is Carol Baskin? But fear not. Fear not, you cool cats and kittens. I have Carol's blog we're going to talk about. That will be sort of where we will go. Now, Doc Antle, for his part, has been on his, you can go to his Instagram page, which is like his safari place in Tigers. It's like all put together on Instagram. And he has a bunch of videos where he's basically just saying that like Netflix did him dirty and that they misrepresented who he was and that he isn't this guy that has a million wives and he cares about the animals and it's not for profit and blah, 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 blah. And he has this like one video on there where the people literally are like, I know Doc. And it's just like not like that. I mean, it's not for profit because he totally does not drive luxury cars. Why would you be in business if it wasn't for profit? That is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. Anyone that runs a business is obviously running a business for profit unless it's a nonprofit. Otherwise, it's a for-profit company. And he has a for-profit company. He also has a nonprofit company, but it doesn't matter. He is for-profit. He also claims he doesn't have a million wives and blah, 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 blah. Carol Baskin had a lot to say, but we'll go through that later. But let's talk about the tell-all, you guys. This tell-all was delicious. And there was kind of some nuggets in here that I was like, that's interesting. Now, I want to talk about who was there. Now, it started off with Joel McHale. Do you remember Joel McHale? He was like kind of big. He had that show Community for a little while. And then he was like, he had a show on like a million years ago. He's a comedian. He's so, I don't know. If I were going to do a tell-all for this, the last person I would have, Talk Soup, yes, that's right. The last person I would have hosting this is literally Joel McHale because he couldn't even ask serious questions. And anytime he asked a question, he was like really sarcastic and it was just like really like hard-hitting stuff and really important. The soup, that's right. Really, like, serious topics he did absolutely terrible with. That's just my opinion. Like, if you're going to be doing, you leave my friend Carol alone. Yeah, okay, Nicole. Okay, just kidding. Anyways, Netflix did this. Tiger King is massive. It is everywhere. Everyone is talking about this show and people cannot get enough of it. And I know that people say like, I haven't seen it yet. Well, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it because it's the kind of show where you can't look away because it has this cast of really like off the wall characters that are all in like the big cat industry and they have like these roadside zoos where they do like petting of tigers. Doc Antle, who was not in the tell-all, he actually was on the VMAs. Remember when Britney Spears walked out of the tiger cage? Yeah, that guy. And Carol Baskin was at the VMAs sitting next to Britney Spears too. Yes, not to mention Joe Exotic. Oh my gosh, now President Trump is talking about, maybe I'll pardon him. No, Joe does not deserve a pardon. Not at all. Okay, so let's talk about what they actually covered in this, in the tell-all. Because during the tell-all, I was like stunned. I was stunned. There was a few times I was like, okay. So remember this guy, Eric? Eric Crowe, or Coe, he was the zookeeper at Joe's Zoo in Oklahoma. So he was saying that he didn't even watch the show. He didn't even watch this documentary. So it's kind of weird to have him on because he doesn't even really know what he's answering about, or like because he doesn't even know what they showed. He said he has really no opinion about what was covered. But he said his life has changed now because he was out about 3 days ago, and when he was walking around, people had their cell phones out and they were sort of like trying to take photos of him and like wanted to shake his hand. And he is actually still working with Jeff. So Jeff moved Joe's Zoo, and now Eric is running Jeff Lowe's Zoo. So when Joel asked him about the biggest regrets he had when working with Joe, he said the biggest regrets he had was when they actually had to put down some of the tigers. And he said that numerous tigers that were put down literally had no health issues at all. And he said he felt like it was like an ultimate betrayal to the cats because he had such a close relationship with these animals and he was so connected to them. So he felt like really sad about that part of it. And he just couldn't believe that they were put down for no reason. And he said, when Joel asked him, like, who had it better at the zoo, the animals or the adults? And he said, the animals have it better at the zoo than the workers. He said that when he was working with Joe, the biggest thing he said is he couldn't ever talk to Joe. Like, Joe would just run people off with his words. He was super crass. Anything that came out of his mouth would come out of his mouth. And he said that Joe was just like awful to work with. And the interesting thing is, you guys, that every single person that formerly worked with Joe, all of them said they were so glad that he was locked up, because regardless of the stuff related to Carol, they all said that he was a terrible human being that treated people awful. So all of these people that want him to get out of jail, like all the people that worked with him are like, no. We are so glad that he is gone. You have no idea what a bad person this guy is. And I think we sort of got, I don't know, only a taste of that, because of the glitz and the glamour. Anyways, he said that working with Jeff Lowe now is like way more relaxed because Jeff's a super calm, laid back dude. He also said that he's seen Jeff's nanny. Yay. He said that Joe should never be free in his life. He said that he should just go away and like never come back and like just be done in prison. Seriously. He said that Joe can't actually see the show on Netflix because he doesn't have access. They don't have Netflix in prison. And then they asked him, like, what do you think about fans calling you Vince Neil? And he's like, I hate Vince Neil. I hate Motley Crue. They're super plastic. That was like the dumbest question, you guys. And then he said, the last thing that he said, that his teeth are jacked up and he's sorry. And he says he doesn't do any of the stuff, the ice in the nose. And he said he likes to sleep too much. He's old. He used to have a drinking problem, but now he's sober. And his teeth and your teeth will get effed up too when you get older as well. So that was Eric. Yay. Then we had these two. Am I the only one when I see Jeff Lowe? I'm just like, ugh. I get like the scuzzy like dirtiness that is like running rampant over my body. I feel a sense of grit mixed with shame, mixed with like that feeling you get when you were out late at the bar and you totally hooked up with that guy who looked cute after like 4 shots in, and then you wake up and it's Jeff Lowe, and then you're like, yeah, that's how I feel when I see Jeff Lowe. So he asked him some really stupid, please delete any comments about the KILLED moderators. That word should not be in my chat at all. Please delete all of those. Thank you. Please do not use the word KILLED in chat on YouTube, please. Okay? Now, he said he has 60 to 70 affliction shirts. Joel had the dumbest questions for these guys. He said due to the current status of the world, the zoo is shut down, that their nanny is super hot, but he's not happy with how the show portrayed him because they made him the villain. And he says, this is the part that I'm just like, everyone says you're a con man, Jeff, but you don't. So if every person says that you've ripped them off for money and cash and stuff, and you're the only one that doesn't, does that mean that you're not because you say you're not? Because if you remember, when the episode actually finished, they did say that this case was not over. There was still going to be investigations into the other people involved because Jeff was technically involved in that plot with Joe related to Carol Baskin. And he's got some shady business deals. So anyway, Joel asked him about he says that you get along with everyone until you don't. And he says, well, yeah, everyone loves me until I'm done helping them. And I'm like thinking, no, Jeff, everyone loves you until they realize that you stole $2 million from them. I mean, think about that guy that he brought out down from the north to help him build that this new spot in Oklahoma. And once he got everything up and ready and the guy plunked down like $2 million of his own cash, he was like, nope, you can't be on this. It's my zoo. I would think that's why people don't like you, Joe. They talked about Alan, the person that was the hired man in this case, and why he was in a bathtub. And he made this comment that was so like the sweetest HITMAN that you could hire. Like, are you joking? Like, you're the person that hired him. Why are you still free? Why are you still free? Why? Why is he not locked up? And his poor wife. Lauren, you could do so much better than this, Yahoo. He's still wearing leather jackets and affliction shirts and a bandana and a hat like he's who? Who does that? You know who does that? Bret Michaels from Poison. And that's about as cool as it was. It's about as cool as Bret Michaels from Poison wearing the hat with the bandana as it is you doing it, Joe. But that's just, Jeff, that's just me. So they couldn't say whose idea it was for Alan to be filmed in a bathtub. He says he has a lot of biker jackets because he wears the jackets because of the tigers. He said that Joe was his own worst enemy and that Joe was always doing really bad things. He said the worst thing that Joe did was putting the tigers down. He said they would be completely healthy tigers. And then he said that there was this time that like he called one like over to the fence and then he would just like take out and put the tiger down for no reason because he had to make room for the other animals that were on the property. He also said that the guy, James, that cooperated with the feds that ultimately turned all of these people in, he said that guy has so much on his record that you would just be surprised. And that's why he turned on those guys. And they also said they still believe that Carol did that stuff to her first husband. They stand firm that Carol is responsible for what happened to her first husband. Because if you remember, Carol's first husband has still not been seen. And police have reopened the case since this show aired. Interesting. They talked about Carol's terrible wedding photos. And he said that Joe always wanted fame and notoriety, and it's the part of it now is that he can't even really enjoy it because he's in prison. And so he's exactly where he's supposed to be. He should not be out. Joe is a really bad guy. And his explanation for why they actually went after him for the con man stuff was, well, they can't really attack me legitimately, so they just have to say that I like associate with criminals. Is it that, or is it that you're maybe like stealing money from people and you might possibly, Jeff, almost be part of that plot that Joe was about? I don't know. Joe will not make money from Netflix, no. And he cannot make money off anything right now because he is in prison. Okay, then the next person up was John Ranke, who is right here. Remember him? He was the guy that was like one of the animals. He took care of the animals, and he was the guy that had the 2 legs that were fake, that the prosthetic legs that he had always dolled up and like with the skulls on it and like cool like legs that he would always have. So he said that the entire time that he worked at the zoo, he stayed there because of his love for the animals, not because of Joe. He said that the animals were so like connected to him because animals don't give a crap about like all the yipping and yapping. It's all about like they love you, you love them. He said that when he worked for Joe, Joe was like really condescending, verbally abusive. Joe would always put him down, even though he basically ran the zoo for 20 years. He would tell him like he didn't know how to run the zoo. And then Joel just asked really dumb questions like, what about his mullet? Like, Joel, who cares? Like, there were so many things I wanted Joel to ask, and he just tried to be funny the whole time. He said that they would like get into verbal fights all the time. And he would just try to do like, he would get into work and he would just stay at work and try to focus on the animals and try to stay away from Joe because Joe was always going after people. And he basically said that Joe is just a terrible human being. He said that Joe would like get on camera and he would just get like all crazy and he would just like fire people because he decided he needed to fire someone that day. And then Joel was so tacky. He's like, did you ever want to throw your legs at him? Really? You have to go for that joke, Joel? And he said, yeah, sure. But then he was talking about all the crazy things that Exotic Joe did on this property. He said that he got so unhinged at one point that he like blew up his cabin and his golf court. He was like constantly, he went through a phase where he said he was blowing everything up. He said the day that he actually left the zoo was when Jeff and Joe's husband, Dylan, got into a fist fight. And it lasted like for 15 minutes. And he said he left after that. He said his life has changed because people want to take photos of him and shake his hands despite the stuff that's going on in this world. And he said this is the only person that, hold on a second. The interesting thing is he was the only person that said that this case is not over. And he was like, I'm sure like this will be back in court. Joel will have appeals. There will be other people that will be a part of this that are going to still get in trouble. And then he also said that he's in the process of getting divorced, but that's all been put on hold because of everything related to the current situation. And he said that he has a new girlfriend and that he's like happy to be away from the zoo now. So that's that person. And then this is interesting. So Seif. Okay, we knew Seif as Kelsey. Now, do you want to know something? This is the craziest part. I had no idea. Netflix misgendered him the entire time. Seif identifies as a male and lives as a male, and Netflix referred to Seif as Kelsey and consistently called him her. And Seif was just like, whatever. Or Saf. Saf was like, whatever. I don't care. Okay. I'd be like, really? Really, Netflix? You did that? Saf, yes. They called Saf a girl the entire time. Anyways, Saf says that he doesn't have any anonymity anymore. He was at Walmart the other day. You know, life has gotten crazy. People want to take pictures with him. He said that he was way more loyal to the animals. And that's the thing that was interesting here, is that every single one of the employees was like, they loved the animals, they hated Joe. He said the hardest part about working at the zoo was Joe putting the animals down for literally no reason. He also said that he was disappointed about how there was such a limited focus on these animals living in captivity, and the way that these animals are treated than there could have been. He said the tigers shouldn't be in captivity, but they also can't go back because they have been born in captivity and they would die if you put them out in their natural habitat. They said that they talked about the accident with the arm, and how Saf said it only took 10 to 15 seconds, the whole thing with the tiger. And he said that he didn't remember anything really of what Joel was acting. And that was another thing that Joel was doing. What was Joel wearing that day? Asking the dumbest questions. Netflix, I've got a thought for you. Next time you're going to do a tell-all, don't have a comedian that wants to make a joke out of everything, because literally that is such a serious topic. And he made a mockery of the guy that, who has 2 prosthetic legs by saying, did you want to throw your legs at him? He's mocking this person losing their arm. He's going off about some guy looking like Vince Neil. It was just so tacky. Joel McHale was a terrible host. And it basically said there was really no fight. The tiger got the arm, and then the arm was gone. And that he doesn't regret at all with getting rid of his arm. He said that there were some parts of it that he didn't really like. He said that there was aspects that there were qualities of Joe that were a good person. He said that every single year that he worked there, Joe and his family cooked Thanksgiving for the entire community and did this for free. And he was a giving person, sort of, kind of, maybe. And he said Joe did a ton of messed up stuff, but he also did good things too. But he also said that he would trust the tiger that got his arm more than Joe at this point. And he said that Joe deserves to be in jail. And Laura Leigh says, I could see that Joel McHale was always a jerky host. All right, so that was Saf. Then we had Josh. Remember Josh, the campaign manager, the person that actually saw what happened when Joe's husband. So this was a really interesting one because, again, Joel was making jokes during a very serious topic. So he said that he was part of the documentary from the beginning, and he thought that the production did a really fair, and he felt like the production was really fair and balanced, and that, if Jeff doesn't like the way that he was portrayed, or if Carol doesn't like the way that she was portrayed, or if Doc doesn't like the way that they were portrayed, he says the truth hurts, because Jeff is, the implication that these people are who the documentary says they are. He said that he met Joe, and he went up to the zoo looking for a job, and he knew that Joe was be crazy, but he wanted to run his campaign. And he said that every day that he worked there was wild, because there was a day he saw some guy get his finger bit off. He also talked about, this was interesting, about how every morning the lions would wake up and they would roar, and the roar would rattle the entire house. So Joe then, see, again, Joel being tacky is so, because Josh is gay, it was so did Joe ever hit on you? Because sure, yeah, just because you're gay, you're going to get hit on. He goes for the low-hanging fruit jokes. It's get some intelligent jokes, Joel. So he said that no, he was not Joe's type because he was like way too old, because Joe likes 17 to 18-year-old guys. He said that it was really hard after he witnessed the accidental death of Joe's husband, and that he had to like go to work every single day and like watch, and like he never got counseling for it. He said that it has really, really affected him to this day. He's not been on meds. He hasn't seen any counseling. He said that the day that it all happened, Travis walks in, and like he said that he had gotten this new, and he said, well, you can't, it doesn't go off without a clip. And so he said that after he said that, Travis put it up to his head, and he said that he saw the look on Travis's face, and he said that once Travis realized that it was loaded, he freaked out, and he said he'll never get that look of Travis's face off of his, like, out of his mind, which made me feel really sad for him. He said that he's not surprised that Joe went to, he said, and he also said that Joe never got counseling ever. And then he said that he wasn't surprised that Joe got 22 counts. He says that he deserves to be in jail, because all of the big cat people, from Joe to Doc to Carol, all they do is care about money. He said none of them care about the animals. And he said the biggest misconception about him is that he does drugs. And he said he has never touched drugs in his life. And he said that despite the fact that Joe does not have Netflix, he is like talking to people through the phone and through email. And he has people like doing Facebook groups for him. And he's getting all of these messages from fans. Gross. Okay. Then we got John Finley. Remember John? The other husband. The husband that, I know the Travis part of this whole thing gets me the most, because it was so glossed over, and it was like they didn't even really like, oh God, it was bad. Okay. So John Finley. Now he's the guy that was married. I don't think they were ever legally married though. To Joe, and then he left, and now he's engaged to a woman that worked at the zoo, and they have a daughter. And he said that he has new teeth, so he had his full teeth in, and he wears them all the time. He said the crappiest thing was people were dissing his tattoo artist. He said that there was a ton of hooking up at the zoo. He said that Joe never sang those songs. It was somebody else. He said that he and his fiance ended up binge watching it like in 7 hours. But he was not happy again with how he was portrayed, because he said that they portrayed him as a drugged out hillbilly. And this is the weird part. He goes, I've been clean for like 4 to 5 years. But like they started filming him. He wasn't clean the whole time that they were filming him. He said he got clean when his daughter was born, but when we met him, he was still with Joe, and he wasn't with that lady. So his timeline didn't make sense. He was like, I was clean for 4 to 5 years. And then Joe's like, well, how old is your daughter now? She's 4 to 5, almost 5. So then were you not, you couldn't have been clean. He also got, upset that people thought it had to do with his teeth going bad, had to do with the METH, but he says that wasn't how it went. He said that he wanted to be shirtless because he has tattoos to show off. And the thing that I thought was kind of odd was that this would have been an opportunity for him to actually ask, like, you're straight, but you were with Joel. Or you were with Joel, because he says he's straight. That would have been a question, but he didn't go there. All right, that was it. He's got teeth, he's got a daughter, and he's not a drugged out hillbilly. Okay. Then Rick Kirkham, the production guy. So this guy said that he now lives in Norway. He said that he actually found Joe on Craigslist. And he went to meet him, and then he kind of moved in there. He said that the way that Joe actually like treated the animals was terrible, and he said he compromised his journalistic integrity because he should have reported him to the feds and shouldn't have stayed there because of the way that he cared for the animals. He said he should have turned Joe in a long time ago. He talked about the story of this woman dropping off a horse and saying, like, could you give him a home? Like, he just needs a good home. He's older. And she said that Joe took the horse in, and then Joe, like, as soon as the woman, he promised that he was going to treat this horse, like, well. And then he took the horse as soon as the woman was gone, and he, like, disposed of the horse and then fed it to the tigers after he had, like, promised this woman that he would take care of the horse. He said he did it within minutes of her leaving. He said that he saw him get rid of multiple tigers. And he said that Joe is one of the cruelest people he has ever met. He said he still has PTSD. He has nightmares of Joe. And he said the biggest misconception of all of it is that Joe is actually terrified of cats. And he said that there was this one part where he was in the cage, and he said the white tiger was blind and then the other one was tranquilized, and Joel was just like freaking out about it. He says that the whole plot that got Joe like locked away, he said Joe asked him to do that to Carol. And he said that it was after he left that Joe spiraled and got more and more and more out of control. And he literally said his biggest regret in life is ever meeting him. And he said, and his biggest disappointment with this entire whole like documentary is that they didn't focus on the maltreatment of the animals, because that was such a big factor here. And he said at least people now are talking about the issue of freeing these animals. So that was the whole rundown. So we didn't see Doc and we didn't see Carol. Now, Carol, for her part, she actually did a blog, and I'll show you just sort of a clip. She's denying basically everything to do with the whole Netflix thing. So she was saying that, hold on. Here is her blog on her website, The Big Cat Rescue. And she basically says, when the directors of Netflix came to us 5 years ago, they said that they wanted to make the big cat version of Blackfish, and they would expose the misery caused by the rampant breeding of big cat cubs for cub petting exploitation and the awful life that the cats led in roadside zoos and backyards if they survived. There are no words for how disappointing it is to see the series. Not only did it not do any of that, but the sole goal of it was being as salacious and sensational as possible to draw viewers. As a part of that, it was a segment devoted to the suggesting with lies and innuendos from people who are not credible that I had a role in the disappearance of my husband, Don, in 1997. There's no short, simple way to refute so many of the lies. So she literally went through all the different things about it, like they're for profit, the cats are in cages. She did videos about what the rescue is really like. She even talks about the time leading up to her husband's disappearance. And she said in the few years preceding his disappearance, his behavior was gradually showing signs of mental deterioration. Originally, Don from time to time would buy vehicles or other equipment at auctions with a view of reselling them, although mostly he never got around to reselling them. But gradually his hoarding of junk that he brought at the 40 acres of the sanctuary now sits on increased and involved junk of no value. He deteriorated into dumpster diving and even stunk in a dumpster and called me crying. Back then, Alzheimer's was not commonly used word. I had not heard of it. Someone mentioned it to me, and I got Don to agree to set up an appointment with a specialist. Dr. Gold and McQueen intervened and convinced him to see her psychiatrist. He referred her to Dr. West, blah, 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 blah. He diagnosed Don with bipolar disorder and gave him a prescription to have an MRI at St. Joseph Hospitals. She said, I did not find the prescription until I was searching at his bedside table looking for clues into his disappearance. She said his behavior became increasingly strange. He decided to refuse to go to the bathroom. Everyone repeats the lie that Don was a millionaire when I met him. He had a business cutting that axles off of trailers pulled by tractors and selling them in boxes of storage. And axles of Great Danes. He overheard a bank officer say he had a $20,000 loan in default, and he would gladly sell to for $2,000. He kept properties in trust. He said during the roughly 10 years we were partners before his divorce and our marriage, there were properties we bought together and some bought in his own with another woman. So basically the people that they interviewed from his family lied, they said, about her. There was no circumstantial evidence, she says. Basically, she says, bottom line, Don was not easy to live with like most couples. We had our moments, but I never threatened him, and I certainly had nothing to do with his disappearance. When he disappearance, I did everything I could to assist the police. I encouraged them to check out the rumors from Costa Rica and separately hired a private investigator. They ended the discussion by pointing out that the investigator told them that in the dealings with me, she was courteous and there's nothing that jumped out to me in terms of her demeanor that makes me think that she was giving inaccurate information. So if you want her whole excuse about what she says happened to her dad, please you can't say the KILL word in chat. She's going down. So I don't really know what's going to happen to Carol. They did say that there would be Teresa, can you please delete Riley's, or Nadia, can you please delete Riley's comments? That's her take. And then Doc Antle basically says that he didn't have a million wives. He isn't like this philanderer, and he's just an older guy that's conservative and doesn't live that life. I'm going to have to read Carol's blog more, but there's just so many things that I feel like they left out about it, and I don't know. I mean, she was a suspect at one point, I think. Are we forgetting that Don was friends with smugglers and thieves? No. I don't think that Doc Antles is actually a good Don. You mean Doc? Doc Antles was not, I don't think is a very good person either. I don't think any of these people are good people. Anybody that has tigers in captivity and is like doing this for profit, I think is, yeah, not cool. So what do you think? All of his staff say he's crap. Carol says she didn't have anything to do with her husband's disappearance. And she thinks that they completely lost track of like helping these animals. And Doc says he's not a PIMP. And and that poor guy, Rick, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for Josh for seeing what happened to Travis. You know who I don't feel sorry for? Joe Exotic. I think Joe is exactly where he's supposed to be. I think any discussion of a pardon is ridiculous. I think people setting up GoFundMes to raise money for him is ludicrous. This is a bad guy. And just because you got hooked on him in a documentary, really evaluate and look at the actual criminal case against him. It was extensive, and it's very difficult for a federal prosecutor to bring that extensive of a case ahead and then get a conviction. So if you missed Tiger King, you can check it out. It is on Netflix. It is the #1 streaming video right now. It's humongous. And we're still going to cover it. We're still going to cover this crazy gangle of characters. And I hope you're ready to hear it. All right, you guys, please. I'll be back later with more.